Who's not coming down the track? Who's not coming down the track? And the me that she is red and white. Me that she is red and white. Ain't nothing finer in the red. Ain't nothing finer in the red. You look at my she's straight there. Come on, What's up, y'all? This is John and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us on Millions and as a part of the Fans First Sports Network. And if you're watching on YouTube or now that we started uploading our video to Spotify, you will notice that I have in-ear or over-the-ear headphones on for the first time. And I will say I have not respected the audio music or the intro music that Caleb sent me like a year ago up until now properly because I had in-ear headphones in that were Bluetooth and they didn't convey all of the music. So that's on
Now,
me.
I will say, I have to be completely honest with you. That version is AI slop, but
Oh,
I do want to make a version that is not, and I've got ideas already written out because I hate that it's that. Like the general meter of it is still mine, but I plugged a little audio recording into Suno, and I would just love to make it my own because it's not what I want it to be. Mostly just because it's AI slop.
that's fine. That's fine. We are actually, if I'd thought about it before I got busy today, I was going to post the AI slot meme that we have ready to go on Instagram for our last episode, which if you haven't listened to it, we did a to hell with everyone for the 2014 Clemson game, which watching it on Tuesday was my first watch through of the game. We get into why that is in the episode, but it was a lot of fun. We talked some trash about some very specific people and players and created an entire imaginary sequence of events for certain coaches that makes the entire situation so much better.
Yeah, yeah, it is definitely. I wasn't on it, but you guys should go listen to it because it is incredibly entertaining.
But so we are going to do another part of You're Either the GOAT or You're Not. And for this one, I'll be honest, I have looked at absolutely zero words of the outline. So from this point, it is your episode.
Hmm. So what I will say though is my second bullet point after intro. Which how are you doing? What are you drinking?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm good, man. I've got out for the first time in a while and was able to play some disc golf today. It was the doubles tournament for the month out on Tybee. They pay first and second. I came in third by a single stroke, and it was because of a missed putt on the very last hole.
Mm,
Um, so that's on me. That's on me. But I will say this is the best a round has felt in quite some time that I've been able to
nice.
play. And considering I'm hosting a tournament next week where people are supposed to beat my score, I truly hope that that maintains. So good luck to me.
Good, good. I have actually so there's this program now where kids can go bowling for free through a
Awesome.
thing,
Love
and
that.
the parents can just buy a pass at the beginning of it and go for free with them. Because the pass is way cheaper than actually going. So I own bowling shoes for the first time now because we're going a lot just to get our money's worth out of it. And I'm like, we're renting shoes for $6 a pop every time, or I can spend $50 and keep a pair of shoes and not pay for it. So just this summer of getting free bowling is gonna make that worth it. Um, and I actually do enjoy it. My goal is always to hit 100. John saw that last time I went before today. I ended up with a 69
Nice. Nice.
after gutter balling the last frame intentionally, noticing it was my score. Uh, Today I did a little bit better. I ended up with a 135.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, almost got a turkey. I was so bummed when that last pin didn't fall on the third one. But I am getting better. And my daughter got her first 100 game today, uh,
Hey,
using the little dinosaur thing that you roll the ball down to get it down there,
it,
but it still
it
works.
hundreds of hundred. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does not matter at all. But yeah, I've been doing good. I've been trying to hit the gym and eat better and replace some of my sweet teas with waters when I go out. And I have actually lost my will to live. Just kidding. I haven't been keeping up with the weight loss, but I thought of that joke earlier and wanted to say it even even though I actually feel great. Uh,
So
all
what I'm
right.
hearing is when you and your family come down at the end of the month for the event and subsequently Memorial Day weekend, we need to go bowling because, fun fact, I used to be very good. I used to average
Oh,
around 250.
oh snap. Okay.
Like I have multiple bowling balls. I have my own shoes. And then also, you're gonna come over to my house and we're gonna lift together. Um, because I have a
All
gym in
right.
my garage. So
Sick.
we're just and then we're gonna play disc golf. So we're just gonna be doing
Okay.
guy shit, and the women can hang out on the beach.
I ain't gonna say no to that. That sounds like a fantastic weekend.
Love that. Awesome.
All right. I believe you had some stuff you wanted to say about some news we got earlier today.
Yeah, yeah. And so none of this is typed out. This is me just being way too angry about something that, in the grand scheme, doesn't matter. The Georgia Florida State series was canceled, and this is the second year in a row that Georgia fans have been disappointed by canceling by the University of Georgia and the athletic department coming to an agreement to cancel a series with an ACC school. And here's the thing: if this was, I don't know, let's just throw it out there, like if this was a home and home with Oregon, let's say, like I could understand a little bit of hesitancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this was a home and home with even Miami right now, like I could understand a little bit of trepidation. But we are talking about a Florida State program that improved enough to still not make a bowl game last year, with a
Mm-hmm.
coach that would have been fired if his agent didn't get him so much money in a buyout that it would entirely bankrupt the entire city of Tallahassee. Like, Florida State is not a threat. Florida State will not be a threat for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
They,
Unless you're a terrible coach and don't know how to get your team ready for a road game in Tallahassee.
right. And like, I do not think that Georgia should be afraid of Florida State. I
No.
don't think Georgia should have been afraid of a completely healthy 2023 Florida State. So you're
Mm-hmm.
telling me we have a 2027 Florida State team on the schedule of where if they make a bowl game in 2026, their fans will be happy. Like, to me, and I understand this is a mutual decision, and I understand the decision on Florida State's part, but this is the weakest and most frightened position I have seen the University of Georgia take in potentially my entire lifetime. Because up until now, it has been, yeah, we might lose the game, but we're going to go play it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how many other teams canceled the series? Like UCLA canceled their series. It wasn't Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to say a few years ago, Georgia and Ohio State were supposed to have a home and home, where Ohio State chose to cancel that series. And then they rescheduled it and this, that, and the other, whatever. But canceling the Louisville series that was supposed to start this year and the Florida State series that was supposed to start next year is the weakest position that the
Mm-hmm.
University of Georgia and subsequently Kirby Smart could decide to make. And I am
Yeah.
ashamed that all directions point towards Kirby Smart not being willing to lace him up and play it on the field.
Yeah. And like I would understand the decision if, say, okay, the 9-game SEC schedule comes out and we choose to cancel either the Louisville series or the Florida State series, because
Mm-hmm.
that would mean 1 year in 2027, our non-conference slate is Louisville, Florida State, and Georgia Tech. I get not wanting to do that.
For
I
sure.
get not wanting to play 12 power teams in a season. But the fact that you get rid of both of those, it just
Mm-hmm.
shows me that you're using Georgia Tech as an excuse to run from competition, and you're Georgia, and you shouldn't be doing that.
A Georgia Tech without Buster Faulkner or Haynes King,
Mm-hmm.
notably. Like notably, it's been those three individual or no, it's been Haynes King and Buster Faulkner that have made your life difficult
Yep.
over the last 2 years. And not only are they without Buster Faulkner, but they're also now without Aaron Philo, who
Mm-hmm.
was a better passer than Haynes King. And so you're telling me, okay, we have a nobody at quarterback that we're now afraid of. Like I love the University of Georgia and Kirby Smart, but this is weak. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
mentally and physically the weakest position that you could have taken. And this is, I don't remember if we had this conversation on the podcast literally within the last 7 days, or if it was had in our group chat after the last podcast. But I don't, I cannot and will not understand. Like I am choosing to not understand the logic here because at the end of the day, it is pure weakness on the part of the athletic department and inevitably Kirby Smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm disgusted by it.
Yeah. This coming out at about the same time as it came out that there's a lot of discussion among coaches to get rid of conference championship games across the board, which I think is also weak. I
I
love
agree.
conference championship. I understand that Georgia has won conference championship games the last 2 years and has not won a single game after that in either of those years. I understand that. That still means something to me.
Yeah.
Being able to walk home with an SEC championship trophy that there is no question about, that you don't have to share with anybody, that you
Mm-hmm.
just earned.
No, I
And
agree.
I don't think college football needs to lose that. I mean, think about last season, right? In the ACC, the way that ended up shaking out. Last season, I think you would have ended up with Virginia and Miami sharing an ACC championship trophy
Yeah.
instead of getting the chaos that we got from Duke winning it and putting two group of 5 teams into the playoff, which was very entertaining, if nothing else, just for that day.
Yeah. No, I, and I understand that the uh, removal of the SEC championship game was brought on by Alabama athletic director. I believe it's Greg Byrne. Fact check me on that if you'd like to. Truth be told, I don't really care who it is. Um, it's weak. Like it, and to be fair, I think it would be an entirely different perspective if Georgia or Texas, and I say Texas because they're new to the conference. They made it. Arguably, they should have won it in 2024. There
Yes,
was
Greg Byrne is the top name on the list.
okay, yeah, yeah. So arguably, Texas should have won the SEC in 2024. I still to this day believe that Texas was a better team. Not on that day, but they were a better team in general than Georgia at the end of the 2024 season.
I'll disagree, but I'll be quiet.
Okay, because it doesn't really change the point of teams that win and teams that make it because they won do not even pretend to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That conversation is had by, and this is fact check me on this. That conversation over the last few years has been had by Florida, Auburn, and Alabama after they lost last year, and maybe a couple of other schools. Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, who notably have never won an SEC championship after college football was desegregated. So, you know, like winners don't have these conversations. And I am
Mm-hmm.
ashamed that as a winning program, Georgia has canceled the Louisville and Florida State series.
Yeah, and is so heavily in the talks about canceling the SEC championship game should the playoff expand.
Yeah, but there are a ton of other situations, and I almost feel like we need to have an episode almost dedicated to kind of like how we individually would like to see college football move forward.
Hmm.
Um, because toothpaste is out of the tube; it's not going back, right?
No, right, right.
But there are certain things that I think you could adjust, not even necessarily change, but adjust to kind of save the projected trajectory of college football. Because right now it's becoming less enjoyable for everyone unless you're making money off of
Hmm.
it. And yeah, like I just it truly makes me angry that Georgia and all indications point towards Kirby Smart pushing Georgia to cancel these series because and personally, like I haven't even said anything about this. Louisville and Florida State, when they were put on the schedule like 5, 6 years ago, that was the reason that I got season tickets.
Hmm.
Like it was supposed to be Oklahoma, Louisville, Florida State, Texas, Ohio State, like all back to back to back to back to back at home every year. And me and my wife had the conversation of that's it. Like we cannot afford to keep buying these tickets and the like in a secondary market every year. We want to go to these games. Let's just do what it takes to get season tickets, and we had, or we did, and we have. But if we're just gonna get three, or I guess now two, home game snoozers every year, like I have no desire to watch Tennessee State and Western Kentucky every year. And I'm going to the
Hmm.
Western Kentucky game this year because I respect the program and I like watching them play football.
Hmm.
But if you combine this year and last year, like if the non-conference slate was Tennessee State and Austin P, like I would be willing to lose money on those tickets because it's not worth the total of essentially 10-hour drive that I have to make to get to and from a game.
Hmm.
And I'm disgusted that the university continues to make the choice to put fans behind a potential like one place seating difference.
Right.
Like, what does it matter in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Especially with when you consider what you gain if when you win that game, and you will win those games more often than you do not.
Yeah, the opportunity cost is there,
Hmm.
but they're just choosing to, in the words of Nicolas Cage, I'm taking Dorsey and jump off the edge of an aircraft carrier. Like that's what they're doing, and I'm
Yeah.
disappointed.
Yeah.
But now we've taken almost 20 minutes to complain about how weak Georgia and Kirby Smart are. Let's talk about how great the players are.
Yeah, let's remember the good times. Yeah, so cornerbacks is what we're going to get into tonight. Breakdown. So if you haven't listened to one of these before, basically what happens is I make a list of a bunch of my favorite guys, and then I personally go in and break it down and make like a top five, and everybody else kind of gets an honorable mention if I feel like they're worth mentioning at all. And then with the ones that make that top five, we talk through their stats, talk through their accomplishments, and then have a nice discussion about which one of those five guys could be considered the GOAT at that position at the University of Georgia. As always, disclaimer, I'm going to leave some guys out that you will probably think about when we talk about this. Georgia's had a lot of good corners
For
over the
sure.
years, yeah, and we cannot talk about all of them. There are a couple that we are absolutely going to talk about because we have to. The
I
rest of
do
them
have a
is just,
question before we get
yeah,
started.
yep.
How many guys pre 1990 are in this outline?
Unfortunately, zero, just because stuff wasn't available and I just couldn't do it.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, I was just gonna say because I mean there's some guys from Georgia that like in 1942 or
Hmm.
whatever were great players, and my caveat to that was going to be the forward pass had only been legal for like 2 decades, and
Right.
if you had 100 passing yards in a game, you were considered for the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. I think the earliest player I even considered was from like 98, like 92. So maybe
Okay,
88. And I think that the oldest guy on this list is from like 98.
okay,
So,
yep,
and then that's different breeds of athletes these today when it
for
comes to
sure.
corner athletes, what you're looking for. So let me start with some honorable mentions. First, rest in peace, Paul Oliver, who was mainly on this list just because he successfully kept Megatron at bay in 2006 in that Georgia Tech game. That to me is good enough by himself to get him a mention by itself to get him a mention here. Played very well in other spots too, but that is what sticks out to me about Paul Oliver.
There are some NFL Hall of Famers that could not do what he was capable of doing.
Hmm. Next, Brandon Boykin from around the same time period, a little bit after Paul Oliver. Scary athletic dude, which is why he was on kick returns a lot. He was probably my first favorite corner that I had as a Georgia fan. I just love to watch him move around the field.
I would agree with that. Some of my favorite plays, he had like 3 receptions on offense
Yeah.
in some games where some wide receivers got hurt, and he was just one of those guys where the coaching staff found a way to put him into plays.
Hmm. And then my last honorable mention is Dalen Everett, specifically when playing a certain team wearing burnt orange.
And and this, I feel like this is something that we've kind of talked about over the last few weeks, specifically, but potentially for the last year or so. We're spoiled as Georgia fans, specifically in the secondary positions. And if you'd have given Georgia Dalen Everett in 2012, he would have won multiple national awards. He would have been an All American, potentially like a program changing player in 2012. But when you come after Eric
Some of the
Stokes,
guys we'll be talking about on
yeah,
this
like when you
list.
come after so many of these guys that are all time greats at
Hmm.
the University of Georgia, like your moments are recognized, but your total career won't be.
Yeah. What's crazy is there are guys like Eric Stokes and Darion Kendrick whose name did not come up
Eric
when I was thinking
Stokes,
about this.
for the from the time he got in that Missouri game until he graduated, was one of my favorite players on the team.
Yeah.
He was he was reportedly GPS tracked as the fastest guy on the team. He played special teams at 100 miles an hour. He also, fun fact, when he got drafted to Green Bay, who obviously I'm a Green Bay fan, so that was super cool
Hmm.
for me. Um, the first game he played as a pro was supposed to be at New Orleans. Hurricane moved that game to Jacksonville, and me and my wife and our friends Marcus and Kendra, we got like second row seats in the end zone to that game.
Mm.
We paid way too much money, but like his family's from New Orleans, so they're Saints fans. Green Bay fan. So we were super excited, and I actually got a picture with Eric Stokes' entire family with the sign that I had
Nice.
about watching him play. So that was like, as a Georgia and Green Bay fan, that was really special for me. I'm a huge Eric Stokes fan still to this day. I don't care where he plays. Big fan is.
Mm. All right. So before I get into the five that made the cut here, I do want to make a note. I am going to list stats with these guys because we always do, but I could not find things like targets and opponents' completion percentage when targeting them, the stuff that really matters for a corner.
Right.
It's just, those are super advanced stats that you have to pay extra money behind paywalls for, and I just wasn't going to do that.
Yeah,
So,
we do not have a PFF subscription, so
mhm,
we do not have those stats.
yeah. So, we are probably going to remember these guys kind of in an abstract way when we talk about them, and that's probably what's going to decide this. Um, that's just how it's going to be. If you don't like it, I guess you can buzz off. I guess you can do that.
But thank you for clicking on the episode.
Of course. All right, so the first name on the list, and I'm sorry, I picked the guy who got drafted to my team over the guy who got drafted to your team, but let's talk about Keely Ringo. Uh, I don't think this number is right. He's being credited for, well, okay, maybe it is. He's being credited for 15 pass deflections, four interceptions, 76 total tackles, one forced fumble, one defensive touchdown, and it was a big one. I'm sure we will talk about it.
Oh, for sure.
One-time All SEC, one-time SEC champion, two-time national champion, fourth round pick by the Philadelphia Eagles, and he has won a Super Bowl with them. He was a guy who was kind of like Dalen Everett, kind of maligned early on, and even into his sophomore year, even after that play in the national championship game. People gave him a lot of hell when he played, and then were convinced that he was going to be the reason we would lose to the greatest team of all time, the number one Tennessee Volunteers, the next 2019 LSU when they came into Athens, and he just wrecked them and caught a pass that was intended for Cedric Tillman, who he was covering like he was the intended receiver, and everybody kind of shut up about him after that. But obviously, when you think of Keely Ringo, if you're not making stupid Australian jokes, the first thing you think of is the pick six to seal the national championship game.
Yeah, and obviously that was one of the greatest plays in the history of the University of Georgia football program. I will say, 2022 definitely hurt his legacy,
Yeah, specifically that first half of 2022.
and also specifically the Peach Bowl, in which
Yeah, that too.
if Javon Bullard didn't exist, Georgia probably loses that game, and Keely Ringo may have dropped a few rounds in the draft
Yeah,
because
which
boy, he was getting cooked by every Ohio State wide receiver.
yeah, which in fairness, have you seen their wide receivers?
Right, they're all NFL
But
starters. Like they're all wide receiver ones on the teams that they're currently on. But still,
yeah, it's when he was doing the same thing against like Missouri, so
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
sort of hard to give him the pass.
yeah. 2022 was rough, and this is something that I explicitly remember saying about Keeley in that season is that he was always in the right place at the right time, just not doing the right thing.
hmm
Which is one of the reasons that I'm kind of surprised that he hasn't kind of been more of a name in the NFL. Do you know what team he's currently on?
No, I wasn't even aware that the Philadelphia Eagles no longer had him. Let's see.
He may
He's
still
still there,
be.
apparently.
Okay, I was
He's
about to
still
say
there.
he may still be on the Eagles, but if so, this will be probably the last year of his NFL contract, or at least his first one. Um, but no, it's just interesting, and I think
He's coming up on the year where they have to figure out his fifth year option. So
yeah, and so the Eagles have let some of their defensive back pieces go um, off to, I can't say greener pastures because you know
what's greener than Kelly Green? But
right. So they have let some of their defense back pieces go. I think this is a prove it year
mm,
for Keely Ringo and the Eagles, and obviously we're not an NFL podcast, but if you still watch the NFL preseason, like the five of you that do, um, definitely keep an eye on
that's the
Keely.
only NFL I watch. So
He is number 7 on the Eagles. He does technically have a Super Bowl ring, even though he really played like 2 special team snaps in that game. But because of that singular play, he will always be. If you give me like 50 greatest Georgia players of all time, he's definitely in the top half.
Mhm. All right. The next person on the list is someone I was surprised kind of to see surpassed Keely Ringo in my own eyes and in a lot of others. Kamari Lassiter. Uh, 14 pass deflections, one interception, 86 total tackles. You might think, a lot of those stats aren't as high as Keely Ringo's were, and he played an extra year. Well, we'll talk about why that was and why that matters. Um, he was all SEC one time. Of course, he was also one-time SEC champion, two-time national champion. He was part of those teams, so I don't think he played much in 21. Um, and then he was a second round pick by the Houston Texans and got himself into the Pro Bowl in 2025 as a corner. Has had a very successful career in the NFL so far. Kamari Lassiter was a guy at Georgia who took away a whole half of the field and made things so much easier for our defense. Like he doesn't have stats because no one would throw his way because the receiver he was covering was not ever open ever.
Yeah. You could say, like what's the Julio Jones, or it's not Julio Jones. Is it Randy Moss or T.O. that said, "Call me Waffle House because I'm always open"?
Yeah. I don't
Uh,
remember. It's one of those two, I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm a Google that while you talk.
If you are being covered by Kamari Lassiter, we're calling you the McDonald's ice cream machine because you're shut down.
You're always shut
You
down.
are shut down.
That was actually Julio Jones. That was Julio
Okay,
Jones.
all right. So one of the three guys I named. Um, but no, man, Kamari Lassiter is the reason that Keely Ringo got cooked in 2022.
Yeah.
And like once again, like I don't want to throw any shade to Keely Ringo because of
I will
how,
be throwing plenty of shade to a different beloved Georgia corner later, so don't you worry. I'm sure I'll take most of the heat from it.
but if Kamari Lassiter didn't exist, Keely Ringo may be the objective number one player on this list.
Yeah.
Because Kamari Lassiter shut down half of the field in 2022 to the point that he was not given the ability to make stats unless somebody missed a tackle. And there's a reason he was drafted so high. He is one of the integral pieces for Houston Texans to last year, including all the way up into the playoffs, having a top like 3 scoring defense in all of the NFL.
Mm.
So, like Kamari Lassiter, to me, before like you have all the stats, you wrote this whole thing out. But when I was thinking about it, like obviously you've got some guys that were way early and have a certain pedigree just based on their name for Georgia fans. But I was having a really difficult time coming up with somebody at corner specifically that I thought was better play in and play out than Kamari Lassiter.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you as well. Like to me, this is a two-man list when we get to the debate, and he's one of the two.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have a hard time putting him at number two. But
Top two, not two, maybe?
yeah. But we'll see. Because the next guy's gonna give him a run for his money for sure. Any guesses who the other guy might be?
Did the other guy play for the Denver Broncos and maybe win a Super Bowl?
I don't remember if he won a Super Bowl or not, but he definitely spent a lot of time at the Denver Broncos. Even signing a one-day contract with them so he could retire with them. Guys, it's Champ Bailey. If you haven't figured it out already. So just for the sake of breaking the stats down, his deflection stats I could not find anywhere. But he did have 8 interceptions while at Georgia, 1 defensive touchdown. Couldn't find tackle and fumble stats either, which is weird. It literally just had his interceptions.
That is
Um,
very weird.
yeah. Especially since the next guy I think is a little earlier, or maybe only slightly later. I think it's slightly later. And had all of that available. 2-time All SEC, 1-time All American, winner of the Nagurski Trophy, and was a first round pick by what was then the Washington Redskins, now the Washington Commies. Obviously, spent most of his time with the Denver Broncos, where he made the Pro Bowl 12 times and got the NFL record for most pass deflections in a career. Um, this is a guy who, again, I've only seen highlights of because it was kind of before my time as a Georgia fan. When he was playing, I was learning how to use the restroom properly.
I was
Um,
learning how to walk, so I can't say anything.
but I did watch him a lot with the Denver Broncos, and this dude was very, very good at what he does. But he's also, to me, And I don't want to throw shade at everybody on this list when I talk about them. He seems a guy though that he was very talented. He was a very good football player, but he also had a personality that made people elevate him like to that extra status that you don't necessarily get to just with talent. Thinking about people like Deion Sanders and stuff like that. Which they actually played on the same team for a little while, as cornerback 1 and 2. Which if they had just stuck together, that could have been real nasty. But um, yeah, he had a big personality, but he was also just an incredible football player. Another one of those guys who, if you see him on the field, you do not want the ball thrown his way at all. And
And
he
so
played a lot of offensive snaps for Georgia too, which is fun.
I was actually about to read his offensive and special team stats off
Oh, please
because
do, because I didn't write those down.
this is a this should be a defensive specific
Yeah.
conversation. Like I don't think these numbers should necessarily play into who we choose as the GOAT corner, but they definitely explain a lot into why Georgia fans hold Champ Bailey in the regard that they do. And also I can confirm he did win a Super Bowl specifically
Uh,
because I met him. I've met him a couple of times, but one of the times I met him, I shook his hand and he had his Super Bowl ring on his right hand. So I have touched his Super Bowl ring. So
Gotcha.
I,
That usually shows up on Wikipedia on the list of accomplishments, and it just didn't for some reason here. But I will believe that you are correct about that.
um, and also this also shouldn't play into it. Champ Bailey's not a very big person.
That's true.
He's on the smaller side of it, and I understand that corners are often smaller guys, but like it's not very often that I am significantly taller than a professional football player, and I was significantly taller than him. So that should play into the conversation somewhat. But anyways, his total offensive plays, he had 80 plays for 1,077 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's an average of 13.5 yards per offensive touch.
Hmm.
His special teams, he had 23 kick returns for 511 yards, an average of 22.2 yards per return, which, if we remember old football rules, it used to be touchback goes to the 20. So on average, he was 2.2 yards past the touchback. And then as far as kick returns go, he had 4 punt returns, I should say, for 49 yards, averaging 12.3 yards per punt return with a total of 1,704 all purpose yards in his career.
Wild. So just for the sake of doing the fact check, he did not win a Super Bowl, but he may have been wearing an AFC championship ring from the
Maybe.
2013
Okay.
season where they lost to the Seahawks, or he may have just gotten one from when the Broncos won it without him 2 years later.
That's weird because he definitely had a giant. It must have been the AFC Championship ring because I'm sure Kelsey has the picture because I went through a multiple year period where I only was able to keep a phone working for like 3 months at a time. But I definitely have a
Right.
picture of him with a
Or it could
giant ring
be
on.
the season they won that Super Bowl was the season that he re-signed for 1 day to retire as a Denver Bronco. It was that season, so maybe they gave him a ring from that season. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it was 2022 before we started the podcast that I
Hmm.
met him and had a pretty long conversation. I will say you can partially thank Champ Bailey for this podcast because it's not very often that you can talk to someone that actually knows what they're talking about that encourages you to do something like this. And that was
Hmm.
one of the times. But yeah, my
Cool. Well, let's
phone
let's
does
give it a
not
Champ
go
Bailey right
that
now
well.
then.
There are a few people. And I feel like I need to give all of those people more flowers. But having that long conversation with Champ Bailey, in which he appeared to actually appreciate that I knew what I was talking about, was one of those.
Hmm. All right, well, we'll try to follow that up. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. These last two guys are not going to be the number one guy, but they're probably worth talking about. And I know there's going to be somebody who yells at me if I don't bring them up. So let's talk about Tim Jennings. Uh,
His NFL numbers alone gets him on this list. Like, I
yeah.
don't care what he did at Georgia, but his longevity in the NFL and the fact that he has a move as a defensive back named after him,
Hmm.
the peanut punch, makes him be a staple on this list.
Yeah, yeah, and he was no slouch in his college stats. He has more interceptions than anybody else on this list in college. Double-digit interceptions in his career, which is no joke. Won two SEC championships, made an All SEC team, won a Super Bowl.
He
Uh,
did.
yeah, I don't remember who with, but he did, and he was a two-time Pro Bowler as well. So plenty of accomplishments to go around for Tim Jennings. I actually did get to watch him play football for a couple of years, unlike Champ Bailey. My first game that I ever went to as a Georgia fan was the game against Boise State to open 2005, and he was certainly in that game. Do I remember anything specific he did in it? Not really, because it was 21 years ago. But I remember watching him play, and I remember when he got drafted by the Colts. Although I think he spent more time with the Bears towards the end of his career.
He did.
Yeah, but lot of love for Tim Jennings. But like you said, I think he's more going to be remembered for what he did in the NFL than what he did at Georgia.
For sure. And and as a Green Bay fan, I watched this man cause way too many fumbles with his patented peanut punch. And he's a guy that if you are around my age, I feel like you forget he played at Georgia. And and it's a shame. Um,
Hmm.
because he's one of those guys that I truly feel like there's a debate on if he was going to get into the NFL Hall of Fame. Like, I think he's close enough that there's a conversation.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's going to be, oh, he went to Georgia? What? Because
Yeah.
he didn't make waves, and he wasn't on any teams that made waves. Is
Hmm.
kind of the bigger thing, because as defensive back, your notoriety comes and goes with the notoriety of the team that you play for.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. And again, like two SEC championships under the belt, like that was an on the rise Georgia, but it wasn't a Georgia that is anywhere near where we see them now, or even where we would see them within the decade.
Right.
All right. This last name on the list is one that I just felt like I had to include, and I'm going to rip him to shreds for a couple of minutes. Let's talk about Tyson Campbell.
Oh no, you can't. You
But I will,
can't.
John. But I will.
No. My favorite secondary that I remember as a Georgia fan was Eric Stokes, Tyson Campbell, and Christopher Smith. You cannot.
One of those guys was significantly worse than the other two.
Oh,
Trust your feelings, you know it to be true.
it's still gonna hurt.
All right, let me get into the stats first. 10 pass deflections, one interception, one forced fumble, three fumble recoveries, 89 total tackles. Second round pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tyson Campbell, very, very highly touted recruit coming into Georgia. People were very excited about him. And of course they were. You got a supreme five-star talent, supposedly once in a generation corner. And he did nothing but frustrate me during his time at Georgia. Nothing.
That
Except
makes
for a
one of
very
us.
except for a very brief period late in the 2020 season. But I hear people talk about him now like he was an incredible Georgia corner to the point where I know I would get hate if I didn't talk about him on this list, and I know you are going to hate everything I'm going to say. He wasn't good at Georgia.
Okay.
And I remember many, many times during those seasons between 2018 and 2020 where I treated Tyson Campbell like we treated Dalen Everett for a while. Up, someone blew a coverage assignment. Guess who? Yeah, Tyson Campbell. It's always Tyson Campbell. So yeah, I'm not gonna call him the greatest Georgia corner of all time. I If you want to call him a DGD because you got personal feelings for him, I mean, he stuck around the whole time. He didn't leave. Um, so yeah, and I understand that I'm a severely overweight white guy who doesn't have an athletic bone in his body, trying to talk about how this extremely athletic dude wasn't quite good enough, but that is what it is. I just do not see at Georgia anything special in this guy, but people lately have decided that he's one of the top 10 of all time.
Okay, so here's and I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to word what I'm going to say because as it should be clear by now, I did not read a word of this outline before I'm hearing it. In my opinion, play by play by play, he was Keely Ringo plus. Play in and play out, Tyson Campbell was Keely Ringo plus. I'm not in, and I'm not saying that he had any individual play better than Keely Ringo because obviously Keely Ringo has the greatest play in the history of the University of Georgia
Yeah.
football program. Like that's not arguable. It's really not.
You're talking about in the non-highlights that show up.
In take that singular play out
Hmm. Hmm.
because it obviously wins any argument. But if you're talking about every other play of their career stacked one on one next to each other, I would take Tyson Campbell over Keely Ringo. And
Okay. Well, and here's a caveat I will add to that as well. I know a lot more about football now than I did when I was watching Tyson Campbell play college football. So I may just not have noticed his talent.
and so here's my argument is that I have almost the same complaint about Tyson that I did with Keely is that he's a guy that was always in the right place at the right time doing the wrong thing. The
Hmm.
big difference is that Tyson Campbell was always in the right place at the right time with his head turned around and just didn't get his hand up. Like he was doing 99.5% of things correctly. And a lot of times the ball would hit him in the chest or the shoulder or the head or wherever and it would go incomplete. Like I think Tyson Campbell has one of the better completion percentages of the corners we've talked about because he was always in the right place at the right time doing almost the right thing. And that's the difference is that he was so good at everything A to W that he didn't need X, Y, and Z.
Huh. Well, I don't pay for Pro Football Focus, so I can't tell you how wrong you are about that completion percentage thing. I just know it in my heart of hearts. But otherwise, I won't argue with you. I
Specifically, go back and watch. What is it? Is it? Oh, hold on. All right, keep going. I got to remember exactly what game it was that I'm trying to talk about.
Okay. Well, yeah. So we've been through the five at this point. So while he looks that up, I'm gonna let you guys know that basically he and I are about to have a conversation on whether we will call Kamari Lassiter or Champ Bailey the greatest corner in Georgia history. I have an answer in my brain. It's an answer that a lot of folks, especially in the wine and cheese crowd, probably won't like,
Mhm.
but I think it's the correct one.
So, the specific game that I'm talking about, go back and watch the 2020 Georgia versus Missouri game.
Okay, see that's fair because like I said, end of 2020, I felt like he was playing really, really well.
No, no, no. Like, go back and watch that game
Okay.
specifically because he didn't. And I truly mean this with every fiber of my being. Tyson Campbell did nothing with his hands in that game.
Hmm.
Did nothing with his hands in that game. Nothing special, I'll say. Like Eric Stokes was the better corner in that game and didn't even play the full game. But Tyson Campbell had multiple pass deflections or breakups or whatever
Just
you're
because
going to
his
call
body
it.
happened to be in between the ball and the
Correct.
receiver.
Because he was doing 99.5% of things
Mm.
correctly. It was an incompletion. And do I think that would fly in today's college football? No. I think if you can't get your hand up along with doing everything else, you probably get cooked. Like you're probably not a starter at Georgia if you can't do everything else.
Hmm.
But at the time, Tyson Campbell was one of the best corners in the SEC.
Certainly how he was talked about at the time. All right. Before I rage bait you anymore. Um, 'cause that's literally all
Go
that
back
comment
and
was.
watch the
That was all the
game,
comment
Caleb.
was. I was just rage baiting you. Oh, and I'm glad it worked. All right.
Go back and watch that game specifically through the weekend and come back and talk to me.
Okay. Okay. All right. So is it Kamari Lassiter or is it Champ Bailey or is it one of the other guys on the list? It's not going to be.
Truth be told. And to be completely fair, right?
Hmm.
We, both you and I, did not watch Champ Bailey play college football.
That is true, and that might sway us a little bit.
And so, because of that, um, you know, we might get a conversation with Mike because he's, old as shit. Um, we might be able to have a conversation with Mike, and that's a joke. He didn't even watch Georgia at the time that Champ Bailey was playing. He lived in, I don't know, somewhere Yankeeville, close to
Hmm.
Kalen DeBoer or something. But I, for me, and because of the era that I have watched Georgia football, obviously I did not watch Georgia football, or at least remember watching it when I was 1, 2, and 3 years old.
Hmm.
So I can't say anything about the way that Champ Bailey played at Georgia, but based on what I have seen, man, I've got to go Kamari.
Yeah,
And based on the guys that I have watched, it's not particularly close. Truth be told.
yeah. I think Champ Bailey fits a different archetype of a corner than Kamari Lassiter. Like Champ Bailey, if you ever play the video game, you know that sometimes you'll watch these guys play the college football video game, and their goal is to make the quarterback think somebody's open so they can get an interception off of you. And sometimes they get an interception, and sometimes they give up an 80-yard touchdown. And I'm not saying Champ Bailey did that. I'm just saying Champ Bailey seemed to me more of a, get the turnover, get the ball thrown your way, and not let the person catch it sort of player than Kamari Lassiter. Kamari Lassiter is more of a, I'm going to take away this side of the field
Right.
from your offense. And to me, especially since he was so good at it, in this landscape of college football, I have to say that's more valuable.
Yeah, like here's the thing. If you could give me a sophomore Kamari Lassiter in the Georgia secondary every single year, I would take that over any other player on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and especially because I didn't get to see Champ Bailey play college football, it's not particularly close. And I don't know if I just lost Caleb or if it's just no camera.
No, I am losing battery because my laptop is apparently not plugged in, but I am here.
Okay, I was about to say I am also close to losing battery. But do you have any closing arguments? Because I feel like after corner, the next episode we need to do is safety, and I truly believe that this may be an episode that we should almost try to record in person the week of the Connect Savannah event because it may actually end up in a fight.
Yeah, who knows? If Tyson Campbell got you going, there's some other folks I can't wait for you to hear my opinion.
For some reason, I just have a personal, I'm not going to say connection because obviously I've never met most of these guys, but like there's just something about secondary players because they're put on individual islands so much
Hmm.
that I almost feel, I don't know a better word than connected to.
Yeah. No, I get you because I'm very attached to the star position, and if you were to talk smack about Tyke Smith or something, you and I would get into a fight. So
Oh, Star is almost one that needs its own episode versus safety
yes, that's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, because
because
that's its own thing, and there's not many in the history because I've only had it for so long.
yeah, that's
Right.
one that's almost guaranteed to be Javon Bullard or Tyke Smith. And
Yeah.
like, should we put on boxing gloves and see who wins? Um, but do you have anything else on this one?
I don't think so. Again, I talked in the beginning about how we have a lot of good corners throughout Georgia, and we do. But to me, we've got really two great corners that we're looking at here, and really one elite all-time once in a generation corner on this list. No disrespect intended to Champ Bailey.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with that. Like, it's definitely a pyramid, right?
Hmm.
Like, yeah, does the top of the pyramid only have one? Yeah, but the bottom or the second layer of the pyramid still has four.
Hmm.
So I would agree with that. And I think we're both on the same page of Kamari Lassiter. And if you're over the age of 35 and listening to this, you're screaming at your device
Yes.
right now. Um, but I can't say that I'm sorry about it because with what we were able to see and the numbers we were able to pull up, Kamari Lassiter is the GOAT.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, follow us on social media at nothing.finer.pod on Instagram, at finerpod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up and you can find us there. If you send us an email or a message on any of these and try to convince Kaleb to let me give a tattoo at the Best of Savannah event, he will definitely not listen. So there's that.
But you could try.
But you can try. But as always, remember there's nothing finer in the land.
And a drunk, obnoxious boomer yelling about Champ Bailey.